Everyone's calling for a red September in Bitcoin, but is the market really going to be that simple? History shows that September can be brutal, but this time we've got new catalysts, key levels, and macro trends that could flip the script just a bit. So is Bitcoin destined for a bloody month, or could this be the setup for the next big move? Let's dive in. If you're enjoying my content that I provide here each and every day, and you'd like to get even more deeper insights, you can access my daily trade setups and market insights from short-term plays to macro moves inside the Traders Club over at DataDashPro.com. Be sure to join today and stay ahead of the markets. All right, folks. So this is something that's been circulating, generally does around this time of year. We get many people that will look to the history of Bitcoin, which obviously is all we can do as analysts overall. Benjamin Cowen here has mentioned that in all prior post-halving years, 2013, 2017, 2021, technically now 2025, would be another post-halving year. Bitcoin was green in July, green in August, and then red in September. So far this year in 2025, we've yet again had a green July. We've had a green August now. And he's suggesting that we may get a seasonal drop in September before the bounce in October. Now, again, that bounce in October, usually everyone looks to Q4 as that, Benjamin Cowen mentioned it, pretty perfect, that seasonality that comes in around that time frame, and not even just in crypto, but across all markets. Generally, you have October, November, and December are usually those Santa rally, those just end of the year blowouts, if we get them, right? It's not like that every single year by any means. And right now, the sentiment seems to be the growing consensus that basically that September is going to be red, almost like a guarantee, right? Not from Benjamin Cowen, of course, but if you kind of pan across, there's many that are suggesting this, and that they're really anticipating basically that October, November, December will be a guaranteed rally. And while there's no suggestion here that states that we shouldn't see the end of the year, have a continuation from where we are now, I just want to paint the picture of how that could literally be quite the opposite, right? So what I'm anticipating here is that we actually do get a green September, and then that potentially leads us into quite a longer period of sideways consolidation yet again. Something of the likes like we saw right here, where we went pretty much sideways and overall basically down for that 6 months. And we did the same thing in the beginning of 2025, right? We had pretty much a sideways and down consolidation before continuation. And I actually am anticipating something similar along those lines. But before that, I do think we could push back up to the all-time highs once more. So if I had to put on my crystal ball Paul hat, again, not married to these situations, but overall, I am anticipating for September, as long as we are holding above that $107,000 key level that we've covered for quite a few weeks, that we will see the move back up to the upside, $118,000 Bitcoin, and potentially a new all-time high up towards that $130,000 region. Now, that area is where I do anticipate to see a sizable correction that will probably last 5 to 10 months. All right. So that is kind of counterintuitive of what many others are kind of forecasting here. Of course, we'll see how things kind of play out. But to be very clear there, the idea is that we push up for the month of September, maybe even to the beginning of October. And then overall, though, we will see a correction come in as everybody probably gets hyped up, excited, overly bullish, more than likely at those levels, especially if Bitcoin pushes into new highs. This month, we have rate cut decisions. If that goes well, or whatever the case comes from that, things can really get going in a big way as far as the sentiment and the euphoria, of course, that always kind of ensues at those levels. Now, again, the biggest reason at hand is that I'm tracking this potential AB equals CD pattern on a larger scale here. Essentially, we have a local trigger now to insinuate that we would have a reversal back up to the highs, right? That's something that we were looking for as we approach down here to this $107,000 region. So locally, I have reason to believe that we at least push back up into this region, 118, 120. At that point, we'll just really be paying attention to see if we flip that region for basically to come up to the all-time high once again. And then ultimately, I'm targeting this area. You can see I've had September set off, which is basically pulling that from a Fibonacci time frame. So not only can we look at things in the sense of Fibonacci retracements, just in price, you can actually expand things out with Fibonacci's in time, right? So this would be a very symmetrical setup here, which would put the 1-to-1 completion zone, and we could get into that, but that's just all you really need to know. puts it in this region. Okay. Again, not married to it. It's just something that I'm overly aware of. And the way that I will be able to utilize this information is if we do push into this in September, that'll be something that I'll keep very much in mind, because this is a very bearish setup. When you're looking at simple like bear flags, essentially, right? When price action is grinding higher, and even though that is the case, this is actually a bearish setup. When there is ascending channels, okay, generally that's a bearish setup at the breaking point as well, right? You get that breakdown and then you get that pullback. So a bearish setup, even though it's bullish to create it. An ascending wedge, same way, right? Where things are kind of coming to completion into a little climax here in a triangle formation, generally a bearish sentiment or a bearish setup as well. When you have the price action bullish to complete it, breaks down bearish, right? So this is a very, very bearish, a little more complex setup. It's a harmonic. So this is a sequence of Fibonacci's with very specific sets of ratios and rules that will apply with a set list of targets, right? So I covered this pretty extensively in the Traders Club Discord. I'll be covering it, of course, as we start making our way through it, but this would be a really big area to be paying attention to. And I do want to point out that I'm not ignorant to the fact that I've been targeting this for quite some time, where a September 130 target comes in, right? And that's months and months and months before this region, even before we've gotten here. So one big thing about some of these timings is that it's not all about getting the exact high on the exact day. If for some reason, again, a big piece for me is if we start losing 107, that's kind of where I'd look to this as a little bit more like, okay, we're probably going to get a deeper correction from here. And maybe this was our high at the moment. This would have been 125 in August, right? So $5,000 move, which is less than 7% difference, and then a month difference in time, right? So very well could be wrong on the timing and the exact high and everything. So it's just kind of something to be aware of here. But if I had to, just if I'm looking at the market overall, I would imagine that we're actually still going to get a little bit of a push higher. It's going to lead to the altcoins doing well for the next several weeks. Even if September we see a Bitcoin, high put in for a bit, it's going to be a while before we effectively break down, right? We all know how that goes. Similar to right here, right? We put in a nice high, you had a few weeks before you effectively started coming down, and even then we consolidated and then really got going here. So that still opens up the idea that we could still see altcoins move up. I'm not just stating like, oh, Bitcoin's about to crash or anything like that. I am pointing out that we are at a level in an area where if we're going to see the next sizable correction, it's going to come in from this region right around that, especially if we push up to 130. Now, it's not an automatic death sentence for the market. Of course, like I said, we could get to those regions. Capital rotates into the altcoins and the Ethereum into everything else for a few weeks before we get that pullback, right? And those altcoin rotations can be massive, right? We can see 200% and 300% rallies before in just the span of a week or two. Look at CRO, right? In 1 month, we had a 300% move. Look at CRO, for example, literally 1 month difference here, July of 2025, August of 2025. Okay. I'm pretty sure it's even almost to the dates there. So things can get really aggressive in a short amount of time. All right. So this was a 360% move, noted it in the Traders Club as well. And these are the things I tend to look for is, obviously when we're consolidating, because these moves come really quickly. There's no way to easily take advantage of this when it's breaking. You want to position yourself ahead of time. Major target was the macro 382 up here. Obviously, we went basically straight to it. So with Ethereum, latest setup here, you could see that I gave in the group here where we would come down to this region. Then I'd be looking for the long, literally off the level there beautifully. So right now we're getting that push up, so to speak, I guess, in this region. Nothing crazy at the moment. But overall, I anticipate us to come through. We got one weekly target left for this week up here, about 4,600. And then ultimately, I'm looking for the box area above us as well. And I think that we could see that in the course of September into October here as well, right? So looking to hold that 4,200. We could get as deep here. I did want to point out, some key levels if we did pull back, just to make sure everybody's not too worried if we see them. But if you pull a simple retracement, Fibonacci retracement from the low we put in place over here to the high up here, it gives us a nice gold pocket just to be aware of, right? So this is something that, again, in a liquidity world, we're right below all the lows. So even if we were to come down to this region here, it's right below $4,000 as well, right below that psychological level. nothing would be broken here, right? This would still be an overall higher low. We'd come right into a key support here to look for that move higher if we even get it. All right. So far, I actually took a long right off of the monthly pivot. That's average of price from last month's average, this month's target. And I'm seeking at least up to 4,600 for this week, and then ultimately up into the box area with a big eye on $5,100 Ethereum. All right, folks, that's where we're going to wrap it up for today. Everyone seems very convinced that September has to be red. Markets love to move against the crowd, though. So don't be surprised if this month plays out very differently than most are expecting. And as always, stay level-headed, stick to your plan, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Till then, everybody, cheers.